my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Monday, April the 15th, and I had to practice that one because for some reason today I've been calling it the 16th all day. I have no idea why. Doesn't make any sense, but it's actually the 15th. Monday, April the 15th. Happy tax day for my American friends. I hope you have your taxes filed. If not, I hope you have your taxes paid and have filed for your extension for the filing of the paperwork. It's not Canadian tax day yet. We've got a couple more weeks to go before us Canadians have to have our paperwork filed. But our tax deadline is coming up, and technically we don't have extensions here in Canada. Although, Revenue Canada, if you are owed a refund, you do not have to file your tax return ever. Well, until you die and then somebody has to clear up the mess. But yeah, if the government owes you money back, you know, they're not quite so anxious to get you that money. But anyway, enough with the taxes. It is a beautiful sunshiny day. We have had a beautiful sunshiny weekend, which of course means, because it is April, I'm here living in the southern part of Alberta, it means that snow is in the forecast. So we have forecast snow for Tuesday and possibly Wednesday, and it's Calgary and spring, and you know, it could snow anytime. Until we get to about May the 10th, I don't sort of, you know, go, okay, we're done with the snow shovel for a while. But anyway, it's a lovely day. I will say, because of course I'm filming this late in the afternoon, that, and as always, I've got a couple of kids next door. Their mother is a fantastic mother. She puts them out to play in the yard, which I wholly support. But they are now playing softball / baseball, things with bats and balls. So the thumping from next door is significant. So previously, I don't think generally when they've been out playing, running around and just yelling at each other, I don't think that's necessarily being picked up. But when they're out there and they're playing with the bat and the ball, the thumping is like noticeable. Like the first time I was like, what is going on over there? Anyway, so just a cautionary note in case really if there's banging that starts up and I don't look freaked out because it's probably coming from next door. All right, it's been a couple of weeks. I feel like I've had a really productive couple of weeks. I've got things to show you, so that's fantastic. So I am going to get started with the stitching. So we're going to start off with Vimy Ridge by Jeanette Douglas. So I started this last year? Yeah, I think last year. Last year as in, not just last year 2023, but 2022. November of 2022 is when I started this one. And as a quick reminder, this is what I had the last time you saw this. So I picked this up on April the 1st because, you know, Lent season was over. And my goal for this was actually to have this completed by April the 9th, which is sort of the anniversary of the battle at Vimy Ridge. Although I feel like the battle went for several days, but for some reason I've got April 9th as like the date. Anyway. I bought the thread pack for this pattern, and that's what I'm using. I'm stitching this on a 32 count. I'm going to get this wrong. Vintage Storm Clouds Lugana. Sorry, I think I'm going to sneeze. Anyway, check in the notes section below if you want to know what the fabric is, but it is a 32 count Lugana. And I finished it. Although, as I was hauling this out, I've noticed I have forgotten to put my initials in, so I do need to get that stuck in there before I can really call it a finish, so I will get that knocked off tonight. I'm also doing this because I keep forgetting that I need to sort of hold and pause so I can get a screenshot. So there is my Vimy Ridge completed. It's notable in Canadian history because it was the first time that I'm going to get the language for this, like the 4 brigades, units, anyway, whatever, of the Canadian Armed Forces actually fought in a battle together, and it was successful. And it's this Renan guy is kind of the one who said, you know, watching that, he was watching the formation of a country. You know, Canada, of course, was a British colony, but this is sort of when the Canadian forces all came together. I've said this before. This is one of probably my favorite of Jeanette Douglas's patterns, which is not the same as my top 5 favorite Jeanette Douglas designs. I love this pattern because she goes into so much detail around what all of the elements are for, right? So these are the colors for each of the units, why she's chosen the designs, talks about the tunnels and the terrain and the campaign. And, you know, the poppies here are, of course, you know, from the poem In Flanders Fields. The poppy is a symbol of remembrance here in Canada. And the guy who wrote In Flanders Fields is, of course, Canadian. So anyway, so it is, yeah, I love this pattern. It's got pictures from her own trip to France, which, of course, when I look at them, I remember my trip to France. You know, so it wasn't just Canadians. That's why there's the multiple flags here up at the top. There were French fighters, Canadian fighters, and British forces that were all fighting on the Battle of Vimy Ridge. But I will put a link to not surprisingly, there's a Vimy Ridge website if you want to read up on it and why it was a momentous battle. Anyway, so I'm really thrilled that this is done. And I finished it early. I finished it, I think, on April the 7th. And I was just like, see, if you had just been stitching in November, this thing would have been knocked off like last year. Anyway, it's now fully complete, which is fantastic. And I'm thrilled with it. So yes. So that is finish number 1. So the reward for finishing Vimy Ridge was I got to start a new project. And so I started Temperature Quaker by the Stitchin' Mommy. This is off of Etsy. She's also has her own Flosstube channel, which is fantastic. So I will put a link to her Flosstube channel in the note section down below, as well as a link to her Etsy shop, which is where I got this from. Sorry, I've got something in my throat. I am using my own color palette. So I'm not using the color palette that comes in the pattern. I came up with my own vast color palette previously. I think I'll in the note section down below, if you want to know all of the colors, I will put down the color gradients. These are no longer in gradient fashion because they are sorted in DMC by DMC number in order, so I can find them more easily. Because when I download the temperatures, and then I attach the correct DMC number and then load it into Dropbox so that when I'm stitching I can find my data. Sorry, might have to take a drink here in a bit. Anyway, so there's my color palette. And so my start, I'm stitching this on a 32 count antique white Jobelin. Had to touch it. No, it's Jobelin. Antique white Jobelin. So this is January and this is February, which technically was my goal for when I started this. I'll explain to you in a little while how I'm doing this. So I'm starting behind, which is totally fine, because it meant that I could sit down and I could, you know, I stitched all of January, then I stitched all of February, and, you know, so I started, you know, on April the 8th, which was, you know, a third of the way through the year, a quarter, not even good with math today, a quarter of the way through the year, and managed to get, you know, the first 2 months done. So, you know, it's April 15th, you know, in a couple of weeks, it'll be, you know, the end of April. So I will need to, you know, I'm like halfway up to date. So from coming from behind, I feel that's not a problem. This is easily achievable. And quite frankly, if I keep up with this means that I will, you know, get this finished by the end of the year. Well, or technically, potentially by January 1st, because I'll need to wait and see what the high for December 31st is. But anyway, yeah, so there we go. So there is the beginning of my temperature Quaker. So that's fantastic. So I caught up on that and got to February and stopped and put it down and said, okay, I need to work on something else. So I decided I was going to resurrect my whip that was not finished from last year. The April monthly Quaker from the Heart Needleart by Wendy. Just had a moment, I was like, did I bring? No, I brought it. And I finished it. So I am stitching this entire series on 40 count white Verdal. I don't remember how much I had, how far it was completed before I started, but my goal was like this, I needed to get this done. So I am stitching this with the called for Classic Colorworks, the called for DMC, which is 524, and I have changed the color for this. I did not go with the called for, which was like Classic Colorworks Goldfish, and instead I am stitching it with Weeks Dye Works Peony, which has sort of got, you know, pink and a corally combo. I did take this to stitching at the library, and we had a lovely debate around where I was going to put my initials in this. So for all of you who participated in that debate, you can now see where I actually did end up putting my initials. It only took me 5 tries to come to a final decision. Doesn't that sound like fun? Anyway, it's now complete. So so far, this is April the 15th. So far, I have 1 finish. That's not true. Can't even do that right. Math, what's up? I have 2 finishes plus 1 new start. So technically, my my whip count goes down by 1. I'm net down 1. So that's awesome. So there is my April Quaker finished. And the reason why I wanted to make sure I had my colors here is, so I told you that I was using the DMC equivalent for one of the Classic Colorworks, which is DMC 524. This is the called for Classic Colorworks, which is Onion Branch, no, Olive Branch, Onion Branch, Olive Branch. It's Classic Colorworks Olive Branch. And look at how different those colors are. So I really, in the context, I kind of went like, I can't see, whoops. I can't see the olive branch working, so I just reverted back to the straight DMC. And this is a series that generally there is called for Classic Colorworks with DMC equivalents. If I were looking in this and sort of saying like, I don't really have the Classic Colorworks, or I don't want to order the Classic Colorworks, my answer is doing it in all DMC, it will turn out lovely. I wouldn't hesitate to say, you know, using the DMC equivalent is just fine. So you know, like I say, sometimes I use the DMC, sometimes I use the classic Colorworks, and sometimes I go, no thank you, I'm going to pick my own color. Which shouldn't surprise anybody. I just realized I forgot to go over comments from last week, but we'll do that just once we get through this. I have them. I have a piece of paper right here. Anyway, so there is the April monthly Quaker completed, which essentially brings us to yesterday. Sunday, April the 14th, was our most recent stitching at the library. And so I got to the library, I opened up my bag, hauled out the project bag for what I was intending on working while I was at the library, and I looked in the bag and went, there's the floss, there's the pattern, there's the rest of the kit materials. Where's the fabric I've already stitched on? And I couldn't find it. So then I went into the rest of the bag because, you know, you don't just take one thing to the library, you take a bag of stuff. So I looked through the bag and I was like going, okay, it's in here somewhere. And it wasn't, because I showed it on my last Flosstube. And when I put it down, I put it underneath the picture of Jerusalem, which is still sitting right here because I'm planning on bringing Jerusalem out again in April. And it was underneath that, so it never made it back into the bag when I was doing the cleanup. So there I was at the library with not the project I was expecting to work on. Now, still not a problem because I have a bag full of stuff. And so I went into the bag and went, well, apparently I'm going to work on something else. What should I work on? So I hauled out an old whip. So unless you've been watching probably since the very beginning, you will not have seen this. So this is Butterfly Square from Little Leaf Designs. Now, so I hauled out this one to do 4 eyelets. I had noted the last time I had been going through my whip pile and looking at this, I noted that I had missed them. And where are the 4 eyelets? They are in blue. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. How I didn't get these done when I worked on this in the first place is anybody's guess. I am stitching this. You're going to have to look in the notes below for, I'm going to say it's either 28 or 32 count White Opalescent Linen, not Lugana. This is a linen. And I'm doing it on the linen is because I had some random white opalescent and this is a small project and I went, I just should, you know, use it up. You know, waste not, want not. While it's not my favorite, this is not going to turn into the most favorite project of my entire stitching career, so you know it's fine. So this was entirely complete except for those 4 eyelets. So I finished those 4 eyelets, and my plan for this is I want to turn it into a pillow, which will be included at that point sometime in the future when Cheryl and I get together to do soft finishing assistance doohickeys. Anyway, so this is side A. And I want to do side B that is identical to this. So it's the stitching on both sides of the pillow and both sides are going to be identical. So, and I did have the matching piece of fabric in the bag, you know, because, you know, that's how I do that. And this is what I got accomplished at the library on Sunday. I held it up. So this was technically, this was the start of side B. So I don't consider this a new whip. This is the continuation of an old whip, which hopefully is going to get completed this year. Anyway, and I held it up at the end and I said, look, I think this has been my most productive stitching at the library ever. I thought I got quite a lot accomplished while we were there. So I have now started on started on side B. And the reason why I ended up saying it was going to be a two-sided whip is because included in this pattern when I bought it was there is a variegated thread. I don't know why I'm holding that up. A variegated thread to do this satin stitch border here. And I looked at it and I went, I have more than enough to do another one of these. And then I went, well, then this is going to become a two-sided pillow. The rest of it is just DMC, and I'm using the called for DMC. So, but yeah. You'll also notice, see, because it is so symmetrical, every time I do something that is symmetrical, where there's, when you start, you've no guarantee you know where you're doing it, I just use some random thread and just stitch an arrow on the side, which, you know, actually probably even right up until the point that, you know, we're actually putting this together, the arrow is probably going to stay there. And so also on the new one, there's also an arrow. This was the leftover blue from when I was doing the eyelets, and I just stitched that and went, okay, there's, that way I'll know which way this is going. And there, yeah. So good progress. Yeah, so I'm happy with that. Anyway, just looking, going, when I serged piece of fabric number 1 and one piece of fabric number 2, one's cream, one's white. Anyway, the fabric is the same. It doesn't matter. I'm wandering. So there is project number, I don't know what we're at. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're not done yet. I have one more. So then when I got home from the library, kicking myself for not having my designated project for the day with me, I came home, came in here into the sunroom and went, of course, there it is right there, still attached to, you know, the cardboard backing for show. And I went, well, you're just going to sit down, because the goal, even from the last time I was at the library, the goal was like the next time I was going to finish this up and be done with it and have it completed. So it can also go in the pile of soft finishes that Cheryl and I are going to work on together at some point in the future. We're not there yet, and Cheryl knows this. So that project is Penelope's Posies by Lindy Stitches. This was a kit that I got from Nashville several years ago, pre-pandemic, which, gosh, like, it's been 4 years. It's been 4 years since we started the first lockdown for COVID-19. Can you believe it? 4 years. 4 years. Anyway, I'll stop that. So Penelope's Posies, I'm stitching this on a 32 count white. I'm pretty sure it's white. White Lugana. It's the Lugana that came in the kit with this. And now, I'm not following all of the colors in this because, you know, that's a lot of yellow and orange for me. So I adjusted the colors, and here is my Penelope's Posies complete. I finished all of the stitching. I got all of those individual white stitches done in the center of these 25 posies. Some people call them the blobs. I think they're supposed to be like individual flowers. It's totally fine. Anyway, I have not put my initials on this, nor am I planning on putting my initials on this, just because it is, it's too dense. It would, like, there's not a good place. And again, this is not going to be some treasured heirloom piece that somebody's going to go, oh my goodness, you know, who could possibly have stitched that? That's not going to happen. Anyway, so this one I felt it was totally fine not putting my initials into, but this one is also complete. So that is three finishes in April and one new start, which means I'm net down 2 whips, which is positive, but only temporarily, because my goal tonight is to start another new project. I know, not work on a whip, start a new project. We'll talk about that the next time you see me, but I have it already picked out, and it's ready to go, and I'm actually quite looking forward to it. So yeah, stay tuned for next week. We'll see how far I get on that one. And Jerusalem is still not gone. Jerusalem should be making a show next video as well. But there you go. So there is finish number 3 for the month of April. There's my Penelope's Posies by Lindy Stitches. And at some point over the course of 2024, I have every expectation that this will turn into a fully finished item. I'm not always the best at FFOing things, but there you go. So that is all of the stitching that I have accomplished since the last time you saw me. Let's go back and get to the step that I forgot, and let's go through comments from the last video that I posted, which was two weeks ago, 15 days ago. So thank you to everybody for all of your wonderful positive comments on how much you enjoyed my Faith project, or Have Faith by Cottage Garden Samplings, which was my Lent stitch for this year, and seeing the progress on Jerusalem. I forgot to write down the person, but thank you to the person who said, yes, I can totally understand why when you looked in Markup RxP and saw that you were at 33% completed the project, that it was encouraging. So yes, thank you for sharing that sentiment with me. I still am a little befuddled why 33% was so momentous, but you know, there you go. But yeah, so Jerusalem should be making an appearance later on my next video, so stay tuned for that. Also, thank you to all of you who had the lovely comments about how I looked in my velvet scarf and hat. One of you commented, said, like, if I wasn't really enjoying the hat, that, you know, could I rip it out and make mittens out of it? It's like, I could, but I don't want to. I did the hat, you know, the hat's done. It's sitting by the back door, you know, ready for me to use, like when I need to do shoveling or something. It's fine as it is. I don't feel like I need to rip it out. You know, is it going to get a lot of usage? No. At some point, could I see myself end up donating it somewhere? Yeah, possibly. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, but thank you for the comments. Jay, thank you for your comment about your interest in the mosaic crocheting. The video that was linked in the last episodes, so whatever the one before this one is, 176, I think is the number, where I showed all that. So there was a link to the Yarnspirations YouTube video that showed how to crochet that lapgan using the mosaic crocheting technique. It's a very, very good video. Like I say, I watched it before I started, which is why I was like going, no, I can totally do this, no problem. So yeah, if you're interested, there's a video to go with the pattern. So it's fantastic. Yeah. So yeah, if you're interested, watch the video. I'm sure you can knit. If you can knit, you can crochet. So no problems. You'll be off to the races. Which of course brings me to the comment from Miss Agatha, which is fantastic. Thank you. And here is the quote. She's saying, I am really trying not to succumb to the Cheryl/Judy crochet virus, which I thought was fantastic. First of all, thank you for saying it's first of all Cheryl's fault, which is great. I did tease her when I saw her at the library going like, you know, I blame Cheryl for a lot of things. And sometimes Cheryl blames me for things too. Like I feel like I blame Cheryl for more than Cheryl blames for me, but just, you know, when I blame her for stuff, she goes, hee, you're welcome. Anywho. And yes, Miss Agatha, it's, virus is a little strong. Rabbit hole, yeah, you know, but, you know, everybody has their levels of what they're comfortable with. And yes, if you don't want to go down the rabbit hole with us, try and resist. There was a couple of ladies at the Sunday Stitching at the Library who were not able to be at the March Stitching at the library, so they missed the velvet yarn lap gown, and like, we were so sad. It's like, we want to touch the lap gown. We want to, you know, it looked fantastic. Anyway, not everybody can attend everything every time, and I totally get that, but I thought that was quite funny. We might be working on a way that we can fix that. We came up with a couple of interesting, I'll just tell you. So we have had this discussion. I talked about this book that I had listened to. I will put the title of the book because it's about Paul Simon and how he writes songs and how that has changed over the course of his musical career. And it's only available as an audiobook. The person interviewing him is Malcolm Gladwell. So that name may ring some bells for some of you. And I loved it. I loved it. I listened to the book twice. I've talked about it at the library several times. I keep waiting for Cheryl to hurry up and listen to the book. But this one lady at Stitching the Library said she had taken it out of the library. She'd listened to it and she was like, it was fantastic. And same thing, she listened to the book twice. The first time she listened to it in one fell swoop, all in one sitting, because it's about 5 hours long. So it's not like one of those books where you need like 20 hours to get through the audiobook. It's about a 5-hour audiobook. She listened to it in one sitting, and then she was like going, and then kind of turned around and listened to it again, which was me. I waited a few days. I think I waited about 4 or 5 days before I listened to it the second time. But I was just so grateful that somebody else was like going, it was fantastic. So what we have discussed is we're going to try to find a time where we can get the library for 6 hours. It's going to take the two of us, because as individual library card holders, you can only book the library for 3 hours at a time. So it is going to take the other lady and myself. We're going to have to get coordinated, because she can book the library room for 3 hours, and I can book the library room for 3 hours. So between the two of us, we can get a 6-hour window when we can find an available spot with 6 hours ready to book. So we are planning on finding a time where we are going to have a listening / stitching party at the library, where we listen to this Malcolm Gladwell audiobook with him interviewing Paul Simon and him discussing his writing process over the course of his career. It's a great book. Like I say, I'm really sad I can't remember the name of it, but I will put the title of the book in the notes section below if you're interested, because I highly recommend it. It's just, I thought it was fantastic. My mom took it out of the library. She listened to it and she's like, I don't really know his music that well. And so it's not going to hit her list of titles she recommends, because she's like, Anyway, so I really loved that somebody else came to the library with it. Oh my goodness, I loved that book. I listened to it twice. Anyway, it'll be interesting, because I'm hoping we can chat and, you know, we'll be able to pause things and go, what do you think about this? And anyway, it was fantastic. So thank you to you know who you are for listening and enjoying the book as much as me. And like I say, we're going to try to find a time where we can block the library off for 6 hours and have a listening to an audiobook party at the library. That will be in addition to the regular stitching at the library. I do not have a May library date available for you yet. The next video I should have the date for that. And like I say, we'll talk about it in the next video. All right, let's talk Stashquisitions. So it's funny because I was trying to get organized for recording this. So I have a box of Stashquisitions because, you know, I'm trying to dole them out over time. And in my in that period of time last year where I was not stitching and not recording floss tubes, it, like I say, it didn't stop me from shopping. And I graciously bought the stuff and kept them in a box so I could show you when I came back. Anyway, so this is a package from last year. See, it's for stash. Not everything I buy is for immediate use. Anyway, this is for stash. All right. So what have I got in this? I actually did go back because I actually have the invoices in with the packages. So this time I went through the box and I date sorted them so I know when to haul them out. So I got a couple of Mill Hill treasures. Whoops, this is probably the better side. They're red stars. This is for a project that technically is not yet in the 5-year plan. If I were to expand to 10 years, I'm really hoping that this project is like in that 10-year plan. I want to get it. I want to get it stitched because I've seen it and it's just beautiful. So these are Mill Hill Treasures 12168. They're the red stars for a very specific project. All right. Then for patterns, I was on a kick last year looking at a couple of series that I have and kind of trying to decide what I was missing so I could decide what I needed to complete them. Although in this one, I haven't stitched any of them. And there's a huge number of charts in them. Anyway, this is Little House Needleworks, the Hometown Holiday series, which generally, like I think when it first came out, they sort of came out, like there were a bunch that came out over the first year. And sort of after that, they've been coming out about once a year. So this is the Quilt Shop. This is number 19. I think they're at like 22, maybe 23 charts in this series. Now, I don't have all of them, nor do I intend to have all of them. There are some that I've looked at and said, that just doesn't necessarily appeal to me, and I don't need to get it. This was one that I was missing from the collection that I have that is one that I would stitch, notably because my mom is a big quilter. So I got that. Do I have a start date for that or any of them in the series? No. Sorry, that's not necessarily the point of Stashquisitioning. This was a re-release last year by Blackbird Designs, Winter Wonderland, and I have been waiting for this to be re-released because Helen D, East Coast crafter, she did this one. She made some color changes, which I really enjoyed. Like, she was working on it and I was just like, what is that? And of course it was a Blackbird Designs, which was out of print. And, you know, I was like, and I talked myself even from trying to go find it on like a Stash Unload site or eBay or, you know, 27 options. I was like, it's out of print and it's not like I don't have anything to stitch on. You can be reasonable. It'll be fine. But then it got re-released. So then I had to have it. So I ordered that. I really do like, I need to go back and find the Helen D video on this where she talks about what her, so she blued hers up. So I haven't decided whether I want to do it this way or do it the Helen D way. Check back later, probably in about 5 years when I'll make that decision. And then I picked up Hands-On Design Block Party Home. I don't have the pins. It does come with the little bit of felt for the top. I haven't quite decided whether I want to use this piece of felt or maybe get a different color of felt because that's fairly yellow for me. So I haven't decided. And when I start working on this at some point, we'll talk about it. In my head, there's, in my stitching plan, I'd say probably, it sounds really horrible, but you know I like a long-term plan for my stitching. Probably in about 5 or 6 years from now, I have a concept of what I'm going to stitch in that year, and this would fit very nicely into that concept. So I don't know. So it'll either be that, or this could easily turn into a stitching at the library thing, or I don't know. So anyway, so I have that, houses. And then from Luminous Fiber Arts, Gathering Berries. So there's a whole, she's got a whole series of these. And I like several of them. They're, each one of them is like one color. Like, so the winter one, which is a snowman, is a light blue. And then there's like a Gathering Acorns, which is browns. There's several of them that I like. This is the only one that I have purchased to date. But, you know, in my wish list, I have several of the other ones. And periodically, I think she came out with another one this Nashville. But this is my first one. I'm trying to be reasonable about my pattern purchasing. Anyway, reasonable is a very fuzzy definition of things. The called for fiber for this is Classic Colorworks Belle Soie Silks in Cranberry. And I do think I've got that in my stash, but I'll make a final decision when this actually moves up on the to-do list. But yeah, anyway, that came home. And then so this is a funny purchase, because if you will remember, I talked about that I had made an order from Garon Stitchery, which I had shipped to my aunt and uncle who are snowbirds, so that we could save on the international shipping and just do American shipping, which is much more economical. And so like that order went in October, and my aunt and uncle delivered it just after Christmas. And part of that package was anthracite, which is funny because before I got that package, I had put in this order for 32 count anthracite. So it was funny when I got the October package from Garon Stitchery. I'm like, oh, I did order that for fat quarter. That was awesome, because apparently I ordered more of it. So yes, this is a dark gray. I ordered a bigger piece of this. So now I have a healthy chunk of 32 count Lugana in Anthracite by Zweigart in my stash. Haven't used any of it, but I think it's a really lovely dark gray. I was just going to say, maybe that on that, no, it's too dark. I need to go up a shade. Anyway, decisions for a later date. But there is a, yeah, so 32 count Anthracite Lugana. Just love this color. Loved it so much I got more. All right, so those are my Stashquisitions from that order from last year. I've got two more. I've got two more bags of things from last year before we start hitting 2024 purchases. Anyway, I'm doing them in order, which means it's going to be 3 or 4 more floss tubes before we hit my Nashville purchases. And by then I'll look like I was really reasonably well behaved, because like it will feel like I waited months before I did any Nashville shopping. All right. With that, if you are here only for the stitching, that is the end of the stitching portion of this program. We're now going to move on to crochet. And at the very end of this video, I will tell you there's another item that I'm putting in there that is not related to stitching or crocheting. So if you care, you can watch the whole way through, or you can just scoot through till you see me doing something unusual. But yeah, there's an added little bonus at the end of this. Actually, before we do that, one announcement for the Ujamaa Grandma's Fabric and Yarn Sale. I forgot this on the last video. The Ujamaa Grandma's Fabric and Yarn Sale is coming up starting on Friday, May the 3rd through Sunday, May the 5th at the Garrison Curling Club. There's timed entry on Fridays. I forgot to go look, but a lot of the time slots on Friday were sold out. Last time I checked. I'm going on Friday in the first time slot available. So I'm volunteering with them this year as well, but I'm still going and shopping on the Friday in the first time slot. Anyway, I may skip the first Flosstube after the Ujamaa Grandma's Fabric and Yarn sale. I may skip the backlog of Stashquisitions and just talk about what I got at the Fabric and Yarn sale. I don't know what it's gonna be like this year. Every year, what comes in for donations is different. Like, you can't, you know, who knows what's going to be there. I'm hoping to be well behaved. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see how I do. There's a few things I already have my eye on because I was part of the person that went and picked this stuff up, which is why I'm in the first time slot. So I am planning on shopping. I have my eye on a few things already. Anyway, I'm actually really quite happy about them. I'm feeling reasonably confident that they will end up coming home with me. But anyway, check back for the first Flosstube after May the 5th. Shoot, as soon as I said, I've just realized I've made some tentative plans with someone where we're gonna have to catch up on that. Anyway, okay, note to self. All right, so that's the Ujamaa Grandma's fabrics. If you remember last year I did what I got at the fabric, I went to town. Have I used most of that stuff? No, that's not the point. So I think I'm going to be more behaved this year on certain things, but you just never know what's going to show up. Anyway, so if you're in the greater Calgary area, I looked at a post on Instagram for Ujamaa Grandmas where they were going, seriously, even if you're in the not greater Calgary area, if you were in Edmonton, which is about a 3-hour drive from Calgary, still, depending on what you're looking for, it may be worth the drive, even with the way that gas prices are right now. Anyway, up to you. Everybody makes decisions what works best for them. And that's the end of all of the stitching things. Like I say, I don't have the next stitching at the library ready yet because we just haven't hit the dates that I can start booking things. But next video, that will be in there. All right, crocheting. So this ties into one of the stitching projects. So I started a new crochet project. Yeah, so from last time, it's I still haven't worked on the basket. The bag that crochet basket is sitting in is right there. I have not put in a single stitch since the last time I showed it. Anyway, and I have another crochet project upstairs that I'm currently working on. And I just look at it, it's it's got a few too many dangly things to show, so I'm expecting probably by the next video I'll be able to show that. And then I have one other project which I've almost finished. It just needs the buttons attached, and I did go out and I bought some buttons for it. I just haven't attached them, and I figure, you know, if it waits until the next one, it's all totally fine. So in the meantime, I started another crochet project. I was gonna say, anyway, it's sort of Cheryl's fault because this is the whole thing that got me started back into crocheting in the first place. Is because she was working on a temperature blanket. So I am now working on a temperature blanket. It's not the same as hers. It's not the same stitch. It's not the same design. It's not the same colors. It's different. So I've come up with my own thing that I'm doing. So part of the thing when I was stitching the Quaker temperature piece, stitching piece, so I'm trying to do my crochet project and my stitching project in tandem. So I started the crochet project. So as you can tell from the stitching one, I did January and February, which means for the crochet one, I've done January and February as well. And so this is January and February for my temperature blanket. Some of you may be going that is not a very big blanket. But the plan for this is, so this is a multi-year crochet project. So this stripe is a foot long or a foot wide. I am using the moss stitch, which I think is sometimes called the linen stitch. And clearly I have my own color palette. Now, this is only till February, but when I was putting the data into my Dropbox folder so I could look at it online, from January, so for this project I have a palette of 12 colors. I brought this to stitching at the library and said, like, are you using yellow for the hot colors? And I laughed because one of the ladies was like, there's no way Judy's going to choose yellow, which is the correct response. There's no way Judy's choosing yellow for that. Anyway, so you'll have to stay tuned till you see what colors I use for the hot colors. But between January the 1st and March 31st, of the 12 colors, I will have used 9. 9 of the 12 colors have been hit in the first 3 months of 2024. Anyway, so there's my January, February. Just so you know, so white is my coldest color. So we had that really brutal section in January. Like there was a day where the high was minus 31.6 degrees Celsius. Even now I can go like, oh yeah, I remember that day. It was like, it was a good day to stay home. Anyway, so yeah, minus 31.6 is in there. Anyway, not fun. Which I think is about minus 32 Fahrenheit, but don't quote me on the math on that. But anyway, so there's where I'm at. I'm all up to date to February. And why it's multi-year, so this is year 1, and then next year I'm going to do another stripe that is 12 inches. So I expect this to be probably 4 years, and then I will join them together. So I'll probably end up, because white is going to be used the least, according to me. Sorry, it looks like there's an... Anyway, white is going to be used the least, and so I'll probably end up doing a white border to join each of the stripes up, and then probably a white border around the outside edge, probably similar to the border that I did on that Christmas Tree Farm afghan that I did, because I quite like that border. So I think that's what I'm going to do, but stay tuned. It's going to be 4 years before this is finished. But after listening to Cheryl moan and complain and whine and anyway about her temperature blanket, because right in August, working on this massive wide temperature blanket with, you know, like it's really hot, and August is a hot month for us. So it's much easier in my head. It's going to be much easier for me to work on, you know, just rolling up my foot long stripe and, you know, do the summer months. I think I'll be able to do it, keep up, and not be complaining. And then because each year is just a foot long stripe, you know, I can join them up. I can join them up in the winter months, you know, after the year is complete, and it doesn't matter. But there is my temperature blanket to date, which ties into my temperature Quaker. So I've got a project that I'm starting tonight from a stitching perspective, and I have a goal set for what needs to be accomplished on that, and then I have a Jerusalem goal that needs to be accomplished, and then I get to go back to the Quaker and hopefully get the month of March done. Now, I'm not expecting to get caught up till April. Like if by the middle of May I'm up to March, that's fine with me. We've got time. Anyway, so there is my crochet project. My dad thinks this is the weirdest idea ever. He doesn't understand it at all. But the color palette will be consistent over all 4 years. So what I did is Yarnspirations has their 30% off sale. I think it's in March of every year, because my crocheting has been so long tenured this time around. But anyway, They had their 30% off sale, so I bought all of my yarn as part of that sale, and I bought a lot of it, probably more than I need, but better safe than sorry over the course of 4 years, you know, because who knows what happens with colors and stuff like that. So I've got a healthy stash of the colors for this blanket, and hopefully over the course of 4 years I won't run out. If not, it might turn into a 3-year project. I'm also keeping track of, it'll be interesting to see how fast I go through, you know, each color, like how many days a ball of each of these yarns is. I am mixing my yarns. They're not all from one company. I'm using some Caron Simply Soft. I'm using some Patons Canadiana. So 2 different ones, same weight, but I could not get my color palette to work in any of the other through one individual yarn brand. I couldn't get the color palette that I wanted. So I'm using a couple of them to come up with my color palette. And as you probably can tell, like finding a light green for me was really problematic. So I ended up, this is a Caron Simply Soft speckled yarn. And that was as good as I could get. But anyway, so far I think it's turning out well. And the reason for this color palette is because I want it to look okay in my family room, which is, you know, that side of the wall. All right, enough about the crocheting. And here is the unexpected bonus. I mentioned this last Flosstube, my dad's birthday, and I got him a birthday card that I think is fantastic. And so I asked him, I saw my parents on Friday and asked my dad if I could borrow his birthday card so I could show it. And he was totally fine with that. And I will say, I think I like the card better than my dad, but don't get me wrong, my dad likes the card. Because it was quite funny, because as I was exiting their house, you know, so we're standing at the front entryway, I'm putting on my coat and all that kind of stuff and getting ready to exit, and he looked at me, he's like, the card is coming back, right? Like, I'm like, yeah, no, this is just a borrow. Like, this is not forever. I will promise to bring it back. He has allowed me to borrow it for 7 days, so I have a time frame. I have to get it back to him before 7 days is up, or I think I'm going to be in trouble. So anyway, but I have it. I took it to stitching at the library. Everybody liked it at the library, and I have it to show you as well. I did buy it off of Amazon.com. This particular card was not available from Amazon.ca. So I ordered it off of Amazon.com. Again, had my aunt and uncle, the Snowbirds, bring it back. And I have said to Dad that right now, they have technically come back. They came back, and then they immediately turned and left on a 28-day cruise. So at some point, when my dad sees his brother and his wife, I'm going, don't forget to take the birthday card so they can see it as well. But anyway, so here is my dad's birthday card, which I love. I love. Okay, I might have to order another one from Amazon.com and have my aunt and uncle bring it back next year, because I just want one for me. So it says happy birthday on the front, chocolate cake, which is my dad's favorite kind of cake. And now I'm going to blow out the candle. Isn't that awesome? I love it. As I said to Dad, you know, he's aging. It's like, you know, it's a safety issue. You know, this way we can safely have a birthday candle. So yes, you can close it up. I wasn't sure how often it was going to work. Close it up. On it comes. It's lit again. I know, it's ridiculous, but I love it. I love it. And since he allowed me to bring it from his house to my house, and even before I got to the library, probably several times every day, I open the card, listen to the song, and blow out the birthday candle. Yep. I kind of like it. Sounds like maybe some of those, you know, fatherly genes are showing up again. Anyway, so there's the birthday card. I will put a link to this card in the notes section down below. I was on Amazon earlier today checking it. So this particular one is still not available from Amazon.ca. There is one that is very similar to this available from Amazon.ca now, but it has the traditional happy birthday song, not this version of the happy birthday. Anyway, and I think the cake looks a little bit different, but the concept is exactly the same. So I will put a link to that card as well in the notes section below for any of my Canadian friends who are potentially wanting this. Yeah, so like even from Amazon.com, like the company that does this, they don't ship to Canada. So right, because you can shop from any of the Amazon websites. It's just not all of the vendors on there are willing to ship outside of the country that they're located in. Anyway, so this one is still only available from Amazon.com, but there is a very similar one with a different happy birthday available from Amazon.ca, and I will put a link to both versions for anybody who's interested. And if you're located in any other country, what you can do is just sort of take the title of the card off of them and see if it's available in your Amazon. So anyway, so there's my dad's birthday card. I love it. I love it. Love, 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 love this card. So does my dad. Anyway, I need to make sure I get it back to him toot sweet before I get into trouble with my dad. All right. With that, I hope everybody's had a good couple of weeks. As always, thinking of the people of the Ukraine. I was watching a really interesting interview where somebody was commenting where, you know, the conflict in Israel has sort of bumped a lot of any discussion of what's happening in the Ukraine off of a lot of news coverage, which, you know, doesn't lessen it, but, you know, the conflict is going strong, and like it's been 2 years. It's been 2 years of this conflict between Russia and the Ukraine. Ukraine is still holding out, which I think is fantastic, but a lot of devastation and destruction. So thinking of the people of the Ukraine, and as always, unfortunately, there's a lot of, you know, there are a lot of people going through a lot of conflict and strife and issues around the globe, and I am cognizant of all of it. And, you know, you never like to see, yeah, it's not good. So not just thinking of the people of the Ukraine, thinking of a lot of people in a lot of places around the globe. Anyway, but I like to keep the people of the Ukraine in people's thoughts, because I think first, sometimes, unfortunately, it's easy to forget sort of some of the conflicts that are going on and who's being impacted. Anyway, with that, like I say, I hope you're having a great stitchy time. If you were like me and you've lost your stitching mojo, I hope you're doing some crafting of some kind, and maybe just pick something up and stitch a little bit. Like I said, I think in one of my previous videos, like I think if I just sat down and picked something up, I think it would have come back. So take this encouragement from me. Don't do what I do and just waited. Maybe pick something up, put a few stitches in, maybe start something new, you know, whatever. Do a few stitches, see if it starts to bring back the stitchy bug. But if you're not stitching, I hope you're doing crafting of some kind, because I think it's helpful from a sanity perspective, and, you know, let's just get the creative juices going there. So as always, I hope you're staying safe. Safety first, safety first, safety first. Like I say, we've got snow in the forecast, so who knows what it's going to be like here. Safety first. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're staying healthy. I hope you're finding some time to do some stitching, and I look forward to seeing you on my next Flosstube, which I am expecting is going to be in a couple of weeks. So we'll see you then. Take care.